Can you guess the disease that I'm about to describe? The patient must poke themselves in the finger or arm multiple times a day, must take shots for the food they eat, and has to count the number of carbohydrates they eat at each meal and snack. If you guessed type 1 diabetes, then you're right. Today I'm going to show you how the Omnipod insulin pump works. Well, in order to understand why diabetics need insulin pumps, you have to understand some other things about type 1 diabetes first. Blood sugar is probably one of the most common things you hear about when you hear people talk about type 1 diabetes. According to Mary Vaughn of EverydayHealth.com, type 1 diabetics must check their blood sugar at least 4 times a day. If you want better control, then you need to check it probably about 10 times a day, which is about how many times I check it. But it's hard for a lot of people to do that because of just how much upkeep it is. Blood sugar is related to insulin, and insulin is what regulates blood sugar. According to NobelPrize.org, insulin is produced in the pancreas, and when we eat, our blood sugar levels rise, and then insulin is released into the bloodstream. Diabetics don't have that. The insulin does not release into their bloodstream because their pancreas has stopped working. And as a result of that, diabetics have to use insulin pumps or use actual syringes to take shots to regulate insulin and glucose levels in their blood. Today, I'm going to show you how to use an insulin pump. Now, before I do this, I'm going to tell you that not all diabetics use insulin pumps. Some people do syringes, and there are many kinds of insulin pumps. I have what's called an Omnipod, and I'm just going to show you how to set it up and how to apply it. Okay, here's the actual pump, and here's what's called the PDM, and then here's the insulin. Okay, I'm going to take the pump out of its package, and it has 3 little parts. It has the pump, and then it has the 2 parts of the needle. Okay, I'm going to screw this lid on, and that puts the needle into the actual syringe part. Okay, I'm going to pull down on this because we don't want air bubbles to get caught, because if you put it in with the insulin, it can kind of disrupt when the insulin injects into your body. And so I'm going to stick it up in there and push all the air bubbles out, and then I pull out the specific amount of insulin that I need, and that just depends from person to person. And you talk with your doctor about how much insulin you take per carb ratio, and it all depends on the person. So I'm going to take the insulin, and there's this little hole, and I'm going to fill it up until it beeps. But first, I need to do this on the pod. I need to press activate new pod. Okay, and start filling it up. Okay, I don't know if you heard it, but there were 2 little beeps. Now I'm going to put the cap back on, and after I'm done with this speech, I'm going to go throw the needle into a sterilization bin. Okay, and so there are instructions on the pod, and it says press next after it gives you 2 beeps. And right now, what the pod is doing is it's setting itself up for the next cycle. And so it's loading and it's putting all the insulin into the actual pump. So I need to wait for that. It's priming. Okay, so while it's priming, I'm going to take off this little cap, which is where the needle is. And then this is actually a sticky tab. And so I'm going to take that off too. And I'm going to put this on my arm because it's probably easier for y'all to see. I'm going to move down my camera really quick. Okay. Now you need to pick a good place on your arm. And so probably right here is good. You try to get the fattiest part of the arm. Okay. And now I'm going to press start. And you can't really see, but there's a needle and it pushes what's called a cannula in, which is kind of a little plasticky tube thing. And that's what keeps the pump in. It's on now. And that'll give me insulin throughout the day. So today I showed you how to set up and put on an insulin pump, specifically an Omnipod. Diabetes is not a fun disease to have, but since we live in such a modern age, technology has increased for it, and it makes it easier to live with every day. Thank you for listening to my speech.